We're going to be taking a look at Frank Garcia, the man with the $1 million hands. That's right, a magician who was so pleased and proud of his card magic that he actually had his hands insured by Lloyd's of London for $1 million. And then this was probably his most beloved book, really hard to get, out of print, $1 Million Card Secrets. So you see, even there, he was going with the flow from his man with the $1 million hands and just taking it right over to his magic brand. Alex, what are we going to do today? What's the subset? What's the parcel of Garcia we're going to be watching today?
We're going to be looking at a little bit more of Frank, a little bit more hardcore stuff of Frank. We're going to end up with a gambling routine that I think is a wonderful, wonderful demonstration. And it's not a poker deal. It's a gambling themed routine that's really just going to knock us all out. It's wonderful. He's famous for it. And to make our way towards that, we're going to see some excellent magic. This first one is very different. You wouldn't expect to see in Frank Garcia's hand. He does a little cigarette magic, and it's a short clip, but it's a really fun one. Let's watch this, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Kindly observe that I have a cigarette. Placing it into the left hand and pushing it through, I remove the cigarette and place it here. Doing this, gadzooks, there's the second cigarette. Taking the second cigarette, placing it here, doing this, we have a third one. But that's not all. There's number 3, there's number 4. Last but not least, having 4 cigarettes, the piece de resistance, the fifth. How about that?
It's funny, he's not known to be a smoker, but I imagine, don't you, Adam, like Johnny Carson, him chain smoking around every trade show booth corner.
It's that voice. It's that he's got that smoker's voice.
Can't take it. You can't take it. Hey, how's it going? It's like Marge Simpson's sister.
That's right.
Hey.
Hey.
I wish I had a sweet voice like Julie Kavner's. That was a beautiful piece of magic. It's interesting. You can really just tell that guy has those smokes close at hand all the time.
And that was a popular trick that was sold through Tannins as a standalone item, and they sold like thousands of them. So it was a reason that he included it in this place. And you know, if a guy's gonna bust out a word like Gadzooks, how could you not have it be part of the collection? You know what I'm saying?
He had me at Gadzooks.
Gadzooks is literally profanity from the 1700s. It's another variation of Christ's wounds, which was a popular way to swear at those times, you know. Gadzooks, referring to God's Zooks. Wound. Same thing. God's wounds, Valen's name.
That's awesome.
Right? When was the last time you heard someone say Valen's name? From now on, that's going to be my favorite exclamatory. Valen's name. You know, just like a Minbari should. What's next?
So this next one, there's a little caveat. Frank sort of breaks the illusion here a little bit and talks to us as magicians watching. And if there's one little moment where that happens, but other than that, I think it's a great opener to his card set here. So let's watch this. It's pretty great.
It deals with a deck of cards, often referred to as a Devil's Prayer Book. There are 52 leaves, all different. That's how you can tell one card from the other. From the back, they remind me of a chorus line. They all look alike.
Did he remove his liver and ask him to pick a card?
In no unusual manner, give the deck a cut.
Who's watching?
Unusual manner.
His liver.
Another cut.
His liver.
And for those that bought the first tape, I think you're aware of what's going on. These are merely false cuts. A false cut is nothing more than a series of cuts that leaves the deck in exactly the same position.
Look at those hands.
As before the alleged shuffling. That's interesting. I thought so. So
Thank
that what
you,
the
liver.
eye sees, the heart must never believe. You can't see it, but you can hear it. That was E flatly. The deck has not been disrupted.
Hey, pause a second.
That's the end of it. That is the clip.
Do you guys notice that Frank Garcia, he's not a man that if the cards just in the natural course of shuffling happen to look like that, and I'm sure He was doing everything. Obviously, that's the nature of this. But he doesn't like the cards to be unsquared for more than a moment. I have seldom in my life seen a man hustle to get those cards unrosetted. It was like the absolute opposite of Leonard Green. It's like the moment those cards are not square, he wants them square all the time. Square. It was
That's
like
the picture he chose. I want to give him that picture every time.
every time. And he goes right back into those cuts and everything that are all just like that. You know what I mean?
You know, I can imagine the one thing that Frank Garcia never said to his son. God darn it, you're going to college no matter what you think.
Yeah, I think like here's another thing he never said to his son. Wake up, go to school, go to bed, son. Can I speak to Timmy on the phone? Can I speak to your mother on the phone? Like, I'm not sure. It's not true, you know, he was a family man. He put a recipe in the back of every single book, you know.
Really? He was a family man? Because he comes, I always thought he was like kind of a casino man. So that's just his
He comes off as
persona, isn't it?
A bit of a scoundrel kind of.
This is the very last item in the book. It says magician's recipe.
Oh.
You shouldn't practice card magic on an empty stomach. I have always found that cooking relaxes me, and if done well, commands another kind of applause. There are also times when you'll be out of work. For those times, this recipe will be most important. At least you'll eat. Follow these instructions as you would a card move. In the handling, you'll find your own touches. Use them. For example, you might want to use doves instead of chicken. Arroz con pollo. Chicken with saffron rice and peas. 2.4. Proof, if there ever was one, that he was a family man.
Sounds delicious.
$1 million meatloaf appears in the super subtle sauce.
Or what it tastes like with doves.
Really?
Son, can you imagine? So many things he didn't tell his son. No, but he helped him pick out a pinky ring, I'm sure.
Today you become a man. Here's your pinky ring.
That was great, though. The trick was great. He did a lot of shuffling, a lot of this, a lot of that.
And it's a great intro. The deck is now in order, and now he moves on into another trick, and he has his assistant help him. And Adam, I'm not sure who this guy is, but he is Frank refers to him as a star of stage and screen. So I think he's a Broadway actor from New York that they had come in to be a spectator, but he's not very lively.
It's not, in fact, one of Garcia's lungs.
It is not, in fact, that. That's right.
Shuffle them, but don't disrupt the order.
He looks like a lung.
Straight shuffle, anything. You've been to Vegas many times, and they tell me that you're a good handler of cards. You're a good mixer.
Yes, pretty good.
I would want to play cards with you.
Take care of that.
There's a joke there someplace, but this is no time for a scavenger hunt. I'm gonna shuffle.
I love that.
Keeper.
Satisfied? Completing the cut. Now, Lee, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to commit myself. By that I mean I'm going to look specifically for one card. You shuffle a deck, you cut it. Yes. All right. And I must admit that you did shuffle the cards in a... As a matter of fact, I'm looking for one card, Lee, if you'll bear with me. I'm going to place it right over here. Uh-huh. Here it is. Right there. I've committed myself. That card, its identity is only known to me. But to take it one step further, as I deal the cards out onto the table, such as I'm doing, you tell me when to stop. Any time at all.
Oh.
Here, here, or here. 10 of diamonds, big casino. Watch this, Lee. I have 2 parcels of cards. Whichever one you want me to use, that's the one we'll use. Now, this is no force.
I see, this one.
This one, all right? You sure now?
Yeah, that's right.
Lee, I'm going to give the deck one cut. I'm going to turn this card over. This happens to be an ace. That might represent me, number 1. You can't get any lower than that. Or higher. By virtue of the fact that it's an ace, I'm going to spell out one card for each letter. A, C, E. Now, there are 3 cards. 2 face down, 1 face up. Would it prove interesting if this card coincided with that one. In other words, this being an ace, would it prove interesting if that were an ace?
Oh, I'd say so, yes.
Now, I've committed myself. This was my predicted card.
Yes.
There's an ace. Try and contain yourself. Here's the third ace. Inclusively, I've shown you the ace of hearts, ace of spades, ace of diamonds. You know what's missing?
What?
The ace of clubs.
Boom.
This is no time for a scavenger hunt. Friends, have you ever seen such a big-handed man in your entire life? He literally, in order to not obscure the deck entirely, his dealing position, there's no place to put his gigantic yams. Seriously, it's a miracle that a man with hands that size, that the cards can be seen at all. He is so deft at keeping them from obscuring the deck. He put his hand on the close-up mat, and it was a full half of the thing, front to back. Have you ever seen such?
Goodness, no.
Just saying. Just saying. Clear.
Those are some meat hooks.
That's what I'm saying. Big old yams. Seriously, severely big yams. And a lovely trick, a little 4-card shuffle deck miracle. Pretty interesting.
Deck miracle. Yeah, it's pretty wonderful.
Pretty interesting, you know. It's nice to see those shuffle deck miracles. He's got a lot of 15-card slug tricks, you know. So fun to see.
All right.
It shuffled.
Casually toying with the deck, gather these cards.
Gather these 15 cards and put them in this obscure order.
Gather this parcel of 15 cards from face to back, but face down. Those are at the bottom of the deck with 4 X cards concealing them. Start the trick by doing a reverse double undercut of 4 cards.
Thanks.
Happens a lot.
Happens a lot.
Happens a lot. And a lot of Erdnase cuts.
A lot of Erdnase cuts.
Sweet lots of them. That was a good pick.
It's a good trick. Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Joke in there somewhere, but I'm not looking for a scavenger hunt.
I like that. I like that joke a lot.
It was good. You know, I feel like through half the show, he wants to turn to his friend Lee and going, you know, I had a young kid in here the other day. His hair was all, you know, wild and crazy like the kids do. But I tell you what, his energy was just as miserable as yours, Lee. Wake up.
Probably doesn't remember that kid even, because it's probably years before at this point.
I'm telling you. He's like, wake up a little. What are you drinking before lunch?
Come on, kid. I'm showing
Let's
you.
Have a highball. Get the party started.
Kid, what happened to you? My God, you've had a stressful life.
You did not age well since the last time I saw you, young man.
Quick, get him a Manhattan.
All right, quick, Steve. If you had to guess, what cocktail does Frank Garcia drink?
Oh, well, it's one of 2. All right.
Yep.
He's either a Manhattan, okay, or an old fashioned. That's it.
Right.
That's it.
Right. Not a vodka gimlet.
No. I think he's a Manhattan guy personally. I bartended for 13 years. I think he's a Manhattan.
You know that if I'm in the right place, I myself am a Manhattan guy.
Are you? I mean, it's a lovely little beverage.
Got to be a good bartender. Got to be the right place.
Mm-hmm.
These days they're trying to make everything with bourbon, even when it's not right.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean?
But I think Frank loosens up after a good set before dinner. Throws back a couple of Manhattans.
I believe he likes to keep it loose. Sure.
I think he's a steak and potatoes guy. You know what I mean?
Meaning
little Manhattan, some steak and potatoes, and it's a successful couple card tricks. It's a successful evening.
I like your style. I kind of keep picturing him sort of at home in his tidy whities and a big apron that says something like, you know, what does his apron say?
He's the chef.
Pick a steak, any steak. All right.
My best.
My best. Your best on my stove.
He said, hey, look, as a magician, you're going to be out of work. So at least you'll.
Yeah. Wow, that really was
positive.
Yeah, you might as well leave because you're not going to be working a lot.
And then he references that you'll be making it with doves. He literally, Alex's joke. We have that friend who told us Chain Canasta, the famous bird magician. You know, because most of these lifetime magicians have spent some time with money. They spent some time without money, and they'll tell you about it. And what Chan Canasta used to say is it's a
Channing
tough
Pollock.
time.
Yeah.
Channing Pollock, I'm sorry.
Channing Pollock. Yeah.
Very different guy.
Confused. I was confused for a second there.
Channing Pollock is a tough times when a magician's got to eat his own birds. Now,
Oh.
apparently, this is not a joke, which has never been said before, because Garcia steals this joke. Literally, here's what he does. Garcia puts a recipe. Apologies for the members who heard this already, but for those joining us, you shouldn't practice magic on an empty stomach. I've always found that cooking relaxes me, and if done well, it commands another kind of applause. There are also times when you'll be out of work. For those times, this recipe will be most important. At least you'll eat. Follow these instructions as you would a card move. In the handle, you'll find your own touches. Use them. For example, you might want to use doves instead of chicken. So I believe he's implying that you will, in fact, have to eat your own birds if you've gotten this far in the book. Warning. We are not presenting financial advice. These are not technically truly $1 million card secrets.
Suppose you eat the only
It's
bird.
this meant right at the end of the book.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And for the record, for those of you that are interested, I have to tell you, I did call Lloyd's of London about that insurance policy. Very expensive. It was so expensive, I would have felt like chopping off a finger by the time I would have literally lost a finger to claim it, which is not the goal.
You'd have to eat dove for dinner a couple times a month if you did it.
I hear it tastes just like pigeon. Let's watch us another.
Yes, sir.
Watch these big old hands. Look at your own hands. Look at your own deck.
And give it a shuffle, a melange.
Look at that precision shuffle.
Look at that.
Pretty, pretty, pretty. I'm going to hand you the
There.
deck. No, better yet. I'm going to ask you to remove a card.
Any card?
Any card.
My
Look
choice?
at it, remember it, show it to our viewing audience, but don't show it to me because I know the trick.
Yeah, okay.
This guy looks
Absolutely
up a little.
selection. Would you do that?
Okay.
Why'd they take my drink?
Now, Lee, remember, show it to the viewing audience, remember the card, and embedded in my chest through a very special operation, I happen to have a pen. I'm going to ask you, if you will, to sign your name.
On the back of the card?
No, on the face of it. I'm sorry. I'm so glad you brought that up. Very interesting point. Have you done that?
Just a minute.
Okay.
Where's my
Now, there's
drink?
a reason why I had you do that. I possibly could have influenced you on the selection of the card, but I think you'll agree with me. Since we've never met before, I couldn't duplicate the signature that now lies on the card. Would you place it back?
Place it back in?
Yes.
Any place?
Yes, any
Right
place.
there?
Right
Okay.
there. Now, Lee, I'm often referred to as the man with $1 million hands. Huh? I do nothing, but I do it extremely well. I give the deck a few cuts. As a matter of fact, let's give it
One
a few
more.
more just to make certain that the cards are thoroughly mixed up. Huh? Would you agree with
Okay,
me?
all right.
You have no idea where the card is.
Looks good to me.
Good. Didn't look too bad to me either. I'm going to place the deck behind my back, and hopefully I will come out with the card that you sign your name
No.
on. Well, try it. We'll give it a try. Give it a crack. Was it? Oh, no, obviously I missed, huh? Would you allow me another chance?
All right.
One more chance.
Sure.
All right, we'll
Place the deck
see.
behind my back. As a matter of fact, Lee, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take it one step further. Something that you will remember for 100 years plus 1 day. Huh?
A long time.
A long time. Tell me, I know. Now, Lee, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the cards and place them into my mouth. That's right. Well, not all the way in. And then I will try and find your card in a rather unique fashion. Fair enough?
Oh,
Now watch. Mm-hmm.
Salt.
Oh,
Mm-mm. One card. Fold it. Opening it up,
Think he's out.
I believe this to
Boom.
be your card, the 8 of spades, with your signature.
well, I'll be darned.
there
Say,
you go. Keep that.
my name's on there.
How about
Right
that?
there. See?
Covered in $1 million spittle.
That's a
Hey.
different time. Different time.
Greatest Generation didn't worry about a little spittle.
You know, I gotta admit, guys, I closed with this for a long time up until March of last year.
Yeah.
And
Are you implying that perhaps the deck was behind his back? Either
I didn't do it that way.
or at all.
I didn't do it that way. But I'm just saying, you know.
Who's a little surprised that more didn't happen after he put the deck behind his back twice?
Yeah. It
Like,
seems pretty.
Just so you know, I don't want to expose anything, but hey, if you give me a second here. I'm just gonna I just need a minute. Now, by the time you come back out here, you could literally, have a human lung in your hand
You could do anything.
to match the one sitting next to you at the table. So it's an interesting choice. But I have a feeling, I'm getting the vibe that maybe these two old friends maybe were having a few highballs in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm. As they're known to do.
But I feel like Frank, he's accustomed to working after a highball. Like Steve's saying, he's a steak and potatoes kind of guy. Big lunch, big Mad Men lunch.
He's ready to do some magic after everyone's had drinks and dinner.
Yeah.
I think there's a certain charm about being just a little off.
do you think, did he do walk around or did he make everybody come sit around him at a table?
I would say most of the time he did close-up table magic.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Yeah. I like that.
Walk around is a relatively new kind of thing. It's for someone trying to do in the big scheme of things, it's like fast food magic. You're trying to cover a whole room, right? And these guys, they were like, I'm here. They're going to come and see me. Why wouldn't they? I'm the man with the $1 million hands, right?
I also think too that stop me if I'm mistaken, but I think he did a lot of trade show work,
hospitality suites and that
hospitality suites kind of thing, and that's way more conducive to that kind of thing because you can set up in the hospitality suite in the corner and bring people over and.
Exactly.
7 or 8 out of every 10 tricks in these books are table tricks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. You have to apply your magic mind to a lot of these things to make them into like a trick where you're standing and you're maybe setting things on a table. Like that's a challenge with a lot of the older magic to sort of adapt it to that forum or that venue.
Right.
It's interesting when we think of Harry Lorraine, who we brought up earlier in the club, was a bit of a contemporary. First time I ever saw Harry Lorraine, it was in front of a lot of people, but he wasn't doing card tricks. He was doing memory. He was doing these stand-up act was memory.
Right.
Frank Garcia was, not Carol Fox. He was the man with the $1 million hands. He was doing table magic. It was Appus Gaffus, all that good stuff. But interesting, one of the things, and we said this about Frank Garcia before, he has a lot of elements that look like a demo man, like a person who does the tricky deals and the cheating demonstrations. But he really is pretty careful to do magic and not to really create this other feeling. He talks about skill a little bit, but he keeps it he does these cuts and things and he handles the cards very neatly, just like Harry Lorraine used to say. The people do want to feel like you can hold them. You can cut them, you can handle them like a person who's doing their job right now, like they're, they should be here in front of you. They did practice, they know how to do it, but not in such a way that makes you think everything they do is sneaky.
That's right. Because very skilled at focusing on the effect and making sure that the effect was the most important thing. All those things just became lines and just things he was dropping out as like a whoa when you're working your way up to the effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I tend to personally aesthetically go for that. I think there's a range of skill you can have. For me, the Leonard Green look is too much.
Mm-hmm.
Jamming the cards together and they're like look like you're trying to break them. To me, it hurts to see the cards just.
Yeah.
But when I see the way Frank Garcia does it, I think, I like cuts and I like doing some things, but not like blowing people out with what you're doing. Making them think, you're just a tricky fingered guy. I'm not interested.
I had a conversation with someone about this very topic. And, the way I look at it is this, like, did anyone here ever play baseball when you were a kid? Like any kind of organized ball? When you hand someone a ball and a glove, right? And they put the glove on and they put the ball in the mitt, if they've ever actually played baseball. Like within 1 second of them having that mitt and that glove, if they've ever played baseball. And it's the same thing with the cards, right? It's like once you get the deck of cards in your hand, you can tell. like how much someone's had them in their hands. And it's not by just the flourish, it's just the way they handle them, you know? And Frank's got that, you know, it's not flourishy, but it's that, what's the word? I want to say, it's like experienced hands.
He's very competent with those cards.
Yeah, he's competent. Yeah, or the other thing I was going to say was, it's like not esprit de corps. Darn it. What do they call that when you carry that weight with you when you come on stage?
Gravitas.
Gravitas. That's it. It's got like gravitas with the deck, right? It's like, you know, you feel like you're seeing someone who knows what they're doing.
And that's the thing. And you know, it's really, you don't, with magic is acting, right?
Mm-hmm. So they say.
There have been performers out there that know how to create that gravitas, who act like they have that competence and do it so sufficiently that it works. It's really interesting. You know, Frank Garcia was an incredibly skilled guy, had all the chops. But one of the things that you really see when he works is he's very careful. One of the things he was great about, when you read his books, it's got some very heavy stuff in it, but he is very, very measured and careful not to spend all day working real hard with the cards. He's spending that day working real hard with the audience. He's not working hard at anything, but he's putting his energy into the audience. He does some heavy things, but he's not doing so many such really heavy things that it's in any way affecting your overall perception of what he's doing. He looks like he's skilled. He can do everything flawlessly. He's never pushing the envelope of what he can do comfortably or what you should be doing comfortably. You know, it's just a beautiful example of how a pro works.
And he's never blown it out so far that you're like, this guy is fantastical and like
he can do anything. Yeah,
he's real low key. He's always like, wow, that was a good one. Do another one, dude. You know, it's
Yeah.
like real. I like that energy, because otherwise it's sort of like you can turn people off to it, you know, with too much of it if you're not kind about it after the effect's over. And Frank keeps it in a real kind space, and I think that's important.
There's some magicians we know that don't have a sense of humor about it. And when you're doing really miraculous stuff, you kind of got to have a sense of humor about it, or else it alienates people a little bit.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So funny. So funny.
So this clip, this is more we were talking about, where it is him being sort of an expert, but it's him playing, and he's a master of entertaining, and he's sticking to what's the most mysterious effect and the most hard-hitting effect. But it's a gambling themed routine, but you're gonna love it. This is great.
You might be wondering what this is doing in front of me. You might be wondering what it is.
Yeah, it looks a little odd.
Yeah, doesn't it? It's a glass containing 3 walnut shells and the small elusive pea at the base. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Now, this is perhaps the oldest form of gambling in America today. No one seems to know the origin. Well, this came first, predating the 3-card Monte. But it's a very, very interesting game. Swindle. It's not a game. We're not going to play for money. All make-believe. Huh? Now, there's a little doggerel that goes with this. A little game of hanky-poo. 2 shells for me and 1 for you. I diddle, it's the one in the middle. Now, obviously, that pea cannot be in 2 places at the same time. Remember, the pea is contained in the center shell. I do not palm it out. I move this one forward, this one back, and I do that. Lee, I ask you one question. Which of these 3 shells do you think contains the pea?
Well, I think I saw it.
You have fast eyes.
Yeah, I'm
Which one?
pretty quick.
If we were
I
betting.
bet there.
Well, obviously, you know something that the average man doesn't know. See, the average sucker, pigeon, apple, would bet this one. You bet this one. But I venture to say that it's always the one that you least suspect. Now, Lee, am I working too slow? Should I speed it up? Slow it down. All right.
You're charging.
Now, look. Sometimes a glass is brought into play, or any container that might fit over any one of the 3 shells.
I see.
You understand that?
Yes.
Now, the pea is supposed to be the center shell. It's not here, and it's not here. There it is. High diddle, it's the one in the middle. This is pushed forward, covered with the glass, so that we know the pea to be beneath the shell contained underneath the glass. You understand that?
I think so. It's
Yeah.
a little confusing, but I think so.
Well, let me start over again. We know that that pea cannot be in two places at the same time. Obviously, it's not here, and it's not here. Sometimes, Lee, the shells are held in this rather peculiar fashion. See? Negating one hand. Now watch this. The pea is first covered with the center shell. You understand that?
Right.
So then,
This
if
is
I
old
move the
school.
shells in this direction
Mm-hmm.
or in this direction, it should remain tantamount to paramount that that pea is always under the center shell. Do you understand that?
Yeah, that's logical.
That's logic. Now watch. I cover it. High diddle diddle, it's the one in the middle. I move the shells in that direction. Rest assured, you should never play this game, Lee, because when you do, and the bets are placed and posted, that pea is not where you suspect it to be. Now, Lee, it's not here. I'll give you a chance between these two. Which one, if you were a betting man? And now we're in a gambling mood.
Well, that's, you've got me in a quandary now. I think maybe this one.
I'm glad you said that because more than likely, the sucker, the apple, would always go for the one, that one. You went for this one, but as I said at the very beginning, it's always the one that you least suspect.
That's pretty good.
I'm working too slow. Should I speed it up or slow it down?
No, that's,
I'd like to take you behind the scenes, Lee. Of course,
Quit while you're ahead.
and gets up in the morning.
I just don't know.
That he goes through every day before eating his cornflakes. Now, bear in mind that I only use one pea, but I could sit here all afternoon and prove to you that I had a pea beneath that shell, a pea beneath that shell, a pea beneath that shell. Do you understand? And a pea beneath that shell. When the truth of the matter, Lee, is that there's no pea beneath any shell. When in fact, what the eye sees, the heart must never believe, because there's a pea there, there's a pea here, and there's a pea there. When the truth of the matter is that there's no pea beneath any shell. That's what they call the nuts.
wow, that's really.
That's what they call the what?
That's
The
what
nuts.
All the nuts. And now we all have to pee. I just had a revelation in the middle of that routine. It's Minnesota Fats. It's Jackie Gleason from The Hustler.
It's
Oh my
very
gosh.
Jackie Gleason.
You're
Yes.
right.
That's the hands. Look at
Yes.
that fat man dance. He's got those big, big hands, and it reminds me of Jackie Gleason with that key stick.
Yep. Yeah, and, you know,
Right?
the minute you said that, it's just like ding. He reminds me so much of Jackie Gleason.
He's got that reserve, that quiet,
The
that
gentleman's still like the, you know, I imagine a guy like Garcia at the bar at the country club, right? Just sitting in the corner. You know what I mean? That guy.
There he
very,
is right
There's
there.
a certain romance to that. You know what I mean? There's a certain, you know,
Right?
going to the club. Got to pound a couple. Be home later.
yeah, that's the, when Paul Newman says, "Look at that fat man dance." It's beautiful, you know. And when he started to do the shells, since it's a hustle, and he is saying, "Hey, I'm gonna hustle you a little," like a pool hustler might do. It really sort of locked in that metaphor pretty clearly. It really comes across, you know what I mean? If you haven't seen that movie, for all of you watching this, we have what do we have? The Orange County Kid. We've got the, San Juan Capistrano Kid.
Palm Springs Kid. Yeah. There.
Right, we've got the Saskatoon, the kid from Saskatoon. All our younger members, if you haven't seen The Hustler, you want to run that one by your parents first.
Yeah.
But after you do that, you'll see what we mean here. That's just great. That's just great. Look at those hands, the way.
Let's talk about that shell trick a little bit in the after show, can we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Some interesting touches there that I don't know if I've seen before, but you don't see them often. If you do,
People usually go more straightforward than that. He has a lot of demo aspects that sort of show off a little bit of the skill. Most people stick with just in the game,
right.
not for exposing any sort of skill in any way, because it's they're saving that for the moment when you bet.
Yeah. Say that I think that little phase where he's showing the P under everyone and then it's just gone.
Yes.
I think that's a phase you don't see most people do because they're trying to show that they could actually achieve
That they're
it.
skillful. Yeah. That they're
And he's really just letting it be magic by doing that. You know, it's almost like a cups and balls thing almost.
similar. Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting way to go about it, because you're definitely like, you have your firmly planted in your cheek while you're doing it, but you're also like, you're never going to win at this thing, man. Don't even try. You know, it's a weird little moment that you're getting there. That's for sure.
What the eye sees, the heart must never believe.
That's a good line.
In addition, you know, we think of Jackie Gleason doing The Honeymooners, but he's doing a straight acting thing in The Hustler, and it really, he sounds more like this. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if that was an inspiration to Frank Garcia on purpose as a younger guy. I wouldn't be a bit surprised.
Yeah.
That wasn't such an old thing at the time, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's amazing. And for those of you that mentioned that, I just want to say, anyone who has tried to sit head to head with Harry Lorraine, and as Alex would say, cut heads with Harry Lorraine, knows that Harry could is a thing of wonder and beauty to behold.
Always.
Watching Harry Lorraine do magic. The first day I got Defectors, I was 18 years old. Harry Lorraine was sitting there surrounded by people, and I sat with Harry Lorraine. He was glowing. You know what I mean? It was an amazing thing. It was an amazing, amazing thing. What did you got one more for us, Alex?
No, that's the end of it. That's the end of Frank Garcia. So we've ended the Frank Garcia journey. I hope everybody had the $1 million hands.
Let's watch the opener again.
Yeah, let's do that. Godzooks, play it again.
Godzooks, God's Bloodlikins. Valen's name. that was from before the Earth Minbari War. That's an ancient forsooth.
Are you guys serious?
Yes, please.
Okay, give me 1 second.
That was Doc Ethan.
Can't get a little cooperation from the backstage crew?
Doc Ethan.
Excuse?
The voice in the booth.
Booth. Hey, Booth, listen to me.
Oh, here it is.
Hey.
I dig that pocket square.
Oh, I meant the card thing.
And then pushing it through.
The next thing.
Oh, go to the third one. Go to the
Deals
third
with
one.
a deck of cards, often
Yeah,
There we go.
that's the one we want.
Smack him down.
Look at that. Look at that. He's got a baby face.
Look at him. He needs a Manhattan and a cigar.
That is the one. That's the one. Thank you, sir.
shuffle them, but don't disrupt the order.
Straight
No, I'm
shuffle
kidding.
or
Straight
rip?
shuffle, anything.
We'll have
We've been
it.
to
guy.
many times, and they tell me
Don't mess them up. Shuffle them, but don't mess them up.
Mixer.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that.
I would want to play cards with you.
Take care of that.
There's a joke there someplace, but this is no time for a scavenger hunt. I'm going to shuffle a lot once more.
I love
And if you
that.
wish, give it a cut. Satisfied? Completing the cut. Now, Lee, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to commit myself. By that I mean I'm going to look specifically for one card. You shuffle a deck, you cut it. All right. And I must admit that you did shuffle the cards in a... As a matter of fact, I'm looking for one card, Lee. If you'll bear with me, I'm going to place it right over here. Uh-huh. Here it is. Right there. I've committed myself. That card, its identity is only known to me. But to take it one step further, as I deal the cards out onto the table, such as I'm doing, you tell me when to stop. Any time at all.
Stop.
Here, here, or here. 10 of diamonds, big casino. Now watch this, Lee. I have 2 parcels of cards. Whichever one you want me to use, that's the one we'll use. Now this is no force.
I see, this one.
This one, all right? You sure now?
Yeah, that's right.
Lee, I'm going to give the deck one cut. I'm going to turn this card over. This happens to be an ace. That might represent me, number 1. You can't get any lower than that. Or higher. By virtue of the fact that it's an ace, I'm going to spell out one card for each letter. A, C, E. Now, there are 3 cards, 2 face down, 1 face up. Would it prove interesting if this card coincided with that one? In other words, this being an ace, would it prove interesting if that were an ace?
Oh, I'd say so, yes.
Now, I've committed myself. This was my predicted card.
Yes.
There's an ace. Try and contain yourself. Here's the 3rd ace. Conclusively, I've shown you the ace of hearts, ace of spades, ace of diamonds. You know what's missing?
Why?
The ace of clubs.
That proves interesting.
It does prove interesting.
It does prove interesting. How disappointed would you be if you just worked your knockout effect for someone and they said, that proves interesting?
I wouldn't feel bad if we'd just been drinking like Jack Lemmon all afternoon.
It's true. Yeah, that was a pretty high compliment if you're drinking all afternoon.
Yeah, you're right.
Be
I guess there's always a time that he proved interesting is the proper comment.
Those gimlets will catch up with you after a while.